Welcome to another episode of Cooking with Christina Fogel. It's fall out, and one of my favorite treats for fall is of course caramel apples. And I was really surprised at how easy it is to make homemade caramel. The first time I made it, I used a candy thermometer and it took all the guesswork out. So today I'm going to show you how to make these wonderful caramel apples. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the apples ready. I am going to add some hot tap water, and not terribly, super nuclear hot, but fairly warm. Store-bought apples have a wax on them, so I'm going to let them sit in some hot water for not even 30 seconds. If you get your apples at an orchard, they won't have the wax on them, so you get to skip this step. And then I just dry them off really well. I rub them, not too hard. I don't want to bruise them, but I just give them a good rub and kind of try and get that wax off. That way the caramel will stick to the apple. And then I'm going to let these dry completely before adding the caramel to them because I don't want any water to get into the caramel. That'll wreck the homemade candy. Once the apples are thoroughly dry, I'll go back in, remove the stem, just twist it around a little bit. And then I have these wooden lollipop sticks. These work great. Again, I kind of twist them in. Just be careful not to go all the way through. And I'm going to get the baking tray ready. I'm going to use parchment paper. I don't like to use wax paper because the caramel always sticks to it, so I always use parchment paper, and I will butter it a little bit. I'm also going to prepare my toppings because once the caramel is ready, I'm going to have to move really fast. Time to make the caramel. I've got the heat set at the stove on medium, and I'm going to thoroughly melt 1 cup of butter. I'm going to be stirring the caramel non-stop, so I have all of my ingredients ready to go right next to me. I am mixing in 2 1/4 cups of brown sugar and a dash of salt. And I'm going to completely mix this in before adding the next ingredient. I just keep stirring and stirring. Now that that's mixed in, I'm adding 1 cup of light corn syrup. I'm gradually adding 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk while I'm stirring. I actually really like watching this part because it seems really pretty to see these colors mixed together. That's all the ingredients, so now it's just a matter of stirring, and this is going to take between, I'd say, 12 to 15 minutes for the caramel to come to firm ball stage. Once the mixture just begins to boil, I add the candy thermometer, and I'm really careful to make sure the thermometer doesn't touch the bottom of the pan. In fact, I kind of run my spoon underneath it to make sure there's space there. The caramel is really thickening up, and I am watching the candy thermometer carefully. I'm going to cook this to 244 degrees, and as soon as it reaches that, I'm going to quickly remove it from the heat. I'm adding 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and you can actually use any kind of extract you wish here. Change it up a bit, but be really careful because this does splash and bubble up. And now for the fun part. Take your apple and you kind of carefully roll it in the caramel. I have removed the candy thermometer, but I left the spoon in because I really do use a spoon to help remove the excess caramel. Let it drip off a little bit here. This recipe is going to make about 12 to 15 kind of medium-sized apples, but if the caramel starts to stiffen, I just go back to the stove and reheat the caramel on low while I stir it until it softens a bit. My favorite topping is chopped peanuts, but there's a lot of fun options out there. However, I would shy away from anything chocolate because the caramel is so hot that it heats up your topping and you might end up with kind of a mess. There's coconut, any kind of chopped nuts, sprinkles, pretzels even. I think those would work great. Any leftover caramel, I just pour it onto a scrap of parchment paper, maybe add some sea salt and enjoy that later. So if you want to add some chocolate drizzle to it, I just take my favorite chocolate bar and put it in a little Ziploc bag, break it up a little bit. I'm going to just microwave this in like 10-second intervals till it's melted. Okay, so that's melted, and I'm just going to snip off a little corner here. and then drizzle over. Actually, if you pick it up, it's easier, I think. Also, make sure to wait an hour or two before adding the melted chocolate, because otherwise that hot caramel will discolor the chocolate as it cools. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me a comment, I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to click to subscribe and hit that like button. I've got a lot of great recipes coming out soon. There's a link down below for the caramel apple recipe. It's at ChristinaFull.com.